Hello, twisted humans.
Do you find yourself wanting to know more about the latest murder, conspiracy, cult, or haunting?
Then this is the podcast for you. I'm Alicia.
And I'm Sierra, and this is
Twisted and Uncorked. Okay. So welcome, Twisted Humans, to a very special episode of Twisted and Uncorked. We have a special guest with us today, Bill Kimberlin, author of the book Watch Me Die, and just an awesome listener of the show as well. So welcome, Bill.
Thank you. It's an honor to be on here. Thank you so much.
It's been a long time coming, that's for sure. We've been trying to make this happen since about July of 2020. So thank you for your patience.
We have.
So do you just want to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, what you do? We'll get into the book in a little bit here, but just kind of day to day for you.
Sure. So my name is Bill Kimberlin, and my background is I have a couple of bachelor's degrees, one in criminal justice, one in sociology. I have a master's degree in counseling, and then my doctorate's in psychology. So when I first started teaching at the university level, I realized that in social psychology, a lot of the debatable hot topics were always the same. Legalization of drugs, gun rights, abortion rights, and of course, capital punishment. I've been fortunate enough to travel to a lot of countries, so I knew a lot about the different drug laws. Grew up hunting all my life in the US and in Canada. I counseled ladies from the abortion clinics. The only thing I didn't really know about was death row or capital punishment. So I never wanted to teach on book smarts only. So I reached out to a couple colleagues that I thought were experts on it, and come to find out they had never been to death row either. So I dove in with the help of my best friend, Roger Burnett, who's a common pleas court judge now, and got a hold of the Attorney General of the state of Ohio to find out what I could do to get on death row. I was only going to go one time, not realizing there was a lot of laws and stipulations. They sent me the laws. The people that were supposed to be executed in the next couple of years said if I found any loopholes, have at it. I did. I went one time, and that was 13 years ago or so, and I've been going to death rows all over the country ever since, witnessing executions, interviewing the worst of the worst, sitting down with them, eating with them, last meals, you name it. So here we are.
That's crazy. And what do you mean by loopholes? Like, how were you able to figure this out?
So in the state of Ohio, at least, only 3 people on each side are allowed to ever witness an execution. 3 from the state's side, meaning the victims' families, and then 3 from the defendant's side, typically a couple of attorneys and clergy. But the defendant, the person that is condemned to die, is the one that gets to choose.
Okay.
So once I started talking to a few of these individuals, they realized that I was, I guess, quote unquote, a stand-up guy. They knew I wouldn't sell them out or anything like that. So they asked me to witness their executions, and then it mushroomed from there.
Wow.
Wow. That in itself has to be a surreal experience, being a part of somebody's last moments, no matter what they've done. Yeah.
Yes. Whether I'm in the death house with them for their last visit or their last meal, or the death chamber witnessing them literally after I talk to them, minutes before, it's different.
Yeah, I would imagine. For yourself personally, do you find that to be like, do you have any self-care routines that you kind of keep up with? Because I imagine that is, mentally taxing on you and emotionally taxing on you as well. Or are you able to separate that?
I separate it pretty easily because I don't really become friends with these individuals. They think I'm their friend. They think I'm their personal savior. I'm their personal psychologist, everything else. but I have separated myself from them from day one. Typically before an execution, I'll get a hold of my kids and my daughter and my son, and try to spend the day with them ahead of time, because I go down the night before, and it's usually a 4-hour drive back and forth each way. So that's when I can process it and decompensate all by myself.
Mhm.
And then I close the folders and close the binders, and that's it. On that case, it's done.
And you were saying the reason you even looked into this is just curiosity for teaching purposes. Like you just wanted to know more.
Strictly academic research wise.
Wow.
And then
Okay.
it just
Yeah.
mushroomed from there. Yes. Rabbit hole.
That is crazy. That is
And that's
the deepest rabbit hole.
your book, I guess.
Yes, the book Watch Me Die, which is kind of catchy, because literally that's the reason I titled it that was, well, I mean, they asked me to watch them die, number one. And number
Right.
two, I didn't really think that there was a following out there. I had never watched all of these documentaries, serial killer stuff out there. I wasn't the groupie. I wasn't the pen pal.
You're not a
person.
true crime enthusiast.
At the time, absolutely not. No. So when I wrote the book, I thought, well, my family will buy it, some friends and a few students for extra credit, not realizing it was going to blow up to the point where it's being actually re-released next month with updates
Wow.
through Wild Blue Publishing. That it has taken off. I think it's sold in like 12 different countries the first time.
Wow.
And yeah, it's just been kind of crazy. So I'm working on the second book, Dinner with the Devil Now, which is like the 6th worst of the worst serial killers that I've sat down and eaten dinner with and interviewed and things like that. So yeah.
Well,
You're gonna name a couple of those 6, or is it a secret?
You gotta buy the book for me.
Okay, I'm just seeing if we can have a sneak peek.
I will say, yeah, you'll have a sneak peek when I open some of the mail that just came.
Yes,
in
I'm
this
so
week.
excited.
So
And that's
exciting.
one of them. This guy is one of them. He killed, I think, 25. He's in San Quentin, Charles Ng. In fact, he was arrested in your country, I believe, in Canada.
That's this side.
Yeah.
Sierra's based out of Tennessee, so
Yeah.
she and I make this.
I have Stephen Hughley out of Tennessee's death row.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's one of mine as well. So see,
That's so crazy.
You cover both sides of the podcast. You're set. Now,
go.
just a random question for us that we were curious about, because when you reached out to me back in 2020, I was extremely flattered that you said that you and your wife listened to our podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
How did you come across it? Just out of curiosity.
I came across it on social media, and the fact that it was the name is amazing, Twisted and Uncorked, because wifey, I call her wifey, Wendy drinks wine and loves it. And there's not that many podcasts that I have done over the last few years, because I've done tons of them that are strictly female oriented. And so that's what caught our attention.
I like it. Oh, well, thanks
So
for
that's
listening.
awesome.
I was very flattered.
Alicia came up with the name. Alicia's a genius with the name. It is amazing.
That is. It's great. It's a perfect title.
And coming up with a podcast name in itself is challenging, because you have to be mindful of names that are already out there and that kind of stuff. And I'm sure did you run into that yourself with the title Watch Me Die, or your second book that's coming out? Did you run into any title issues?
I never researched the titles or anything. I just came up with them.
I like it.
And then a lot of my guys on death row, they compete to paint or design my covers.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, it is it's kind of crazy when you have inmates from all over the country on death row that as soon as you give them the name and you tell them what you're looking for, then next thing you know, they're submitting all of their covers that they think should be the best.
Wow. And just from what I've seen on your Instagram, there's no shortage of talented artists that you've worked with.
Well, I show the ones on Instagram that can be shown, so I don't get banned.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
So like some of them, like another one that I received this week from Ohio's death row. I have no idea what it is either,
Okay.
but it sometimes he will paint with human blood or semen or you name it. So it's there's I have a lot of stuff.
Wow.
A lot of times they will hide crime scene photos on the back of the paintings that you could never that they're actual, the bodies of the victims.
Wow.
Yeah. So
And why do they send you these things? Because they think of you as a friend? Are they sending you these things like, hey, friend, I sent you something, write me back? Or is it like they want you to analyze something? Like, what? Why are you getting mail?
so I have probably 1,500 pieces of just art alone. Everything from paintings to working wooden clocks to
Wow.
leather goods are very popular from Tennessee's death row. Um, paper mache, you name it. A lot of them will send them to me because they know that I won't sell it on the market because there's a huge market for this stuff.
Definitely.
I
Where
imagine.
people pay a ton of money. And I've never sold a single piece, not a letter, not a piece of art or anything like that. I typically will never publish the name when I post it on social media. And they don't want to be forgotten. That's their biggest fear. They're not afraid of dying. They just don't want to be forgotten. So they think if their works of art will live through my books or whatever, that's perfectly fine with them.
Wow. Um, Speaking of living through your books, is that something you've ever thought about, making a book of these?
So yeah, I've thought of that. In fact, they've already done the cover for that called Killer Art, because the
Wow.
connotation is both killer being its amazing art,
Right,
killer
right.
also done by nothing but killers. Um, and I'm just waiting to put that together because that's like a coffee table size book,
Yes, I was
Oh,
gonna
wow.
say
which
that
is
it looked great on my coffee table.
right, which is all glossy pictures, which are very expensive, I'm assuming,
Yes.
to have published. So
Yes.
I'm contracted with my publisher for like 10 years now. So I'll have to see what they think on that one.
That's a brilliant
Yeah.
idea. I can say you'd have two purchases right here. So
It's I didn't realize how much art books went for, but yeah. And when you're talking, 1,500 pieces of art,
Mhm.
what do you choose to put in?
yeah.
You know,
You
all
could
of
do it.
that.
You
Oh,
could do
man.
it by feel. Like I've seen a lot of landscapes and
Yeah.
some are a little like some are portraits of celebrities
Right,
or
because
you get a
I
variety.
get a lot of the Bob Ross style paintings,
Mhm.
where they have
Wow.
hidden messages in there, or a lot of portraits where the guys are really good with portraits. I mean, there's a lot of good talent on death row.
Yeah.
So,
I
but
was
again, I'm not an artist, so like I said, this stuff just sits around. So when I say I haven't opened this stuff, and when I do open it, I'll show you guys. I might post a picture of something tomorrow, but then I could throw it into the room, and wifey takes care of it eventually. I don't analyze it. I don't look at it.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
part
Oh
of what
my
Wendy deals
goodness.
with here is all this
Yes,
artwork that
yes.
lands around
Yes.
the home.
Oh,
But that's very unique to have something like that. And it just goes to show your level of integrity that you've never, sold anything or sold anybody out. That's
No,
incredible.
never
So,
sold any of them out, never done anything like that. And that's why um, I'm invited to a lot of death rows. That's also what keeps me alive when I go to death row, because there are no handcuffs, there's no shackles, there's no nothing. I get to eat with them, walk around with them, do whatever. And they do remind me from time to time that the guards will let anybody in on death row. They are the ones that decide who gets to go home. Um, it's their house. They know everything about me ahead of time. So, because people ask me that all the time, aren't you afraid they're going to find out about you? And the fact of the matter is, when they ask me personal questions, they already know the answers to it. They just want to see if I'm being honest.
wow. Now, is that
So,
information that's given to them or that they're able to search publicly themselves or?
Well, you have to realize that not everyone is sentenced to death or life without parole, which means that when people get out of prison, they still owe favors to other people. So I literally had, serial killers just send me a really vague letter saying that I heard you're a stand-up guy. I'm gonna have you checked out. If you check out, I'll write you, and then that's it.
Oh, that's
And then I check
eerie.
out, and so yeah, they'll send me paintings of wifey's school mascot or my son or my daughter's favorite singers, stuff like that that I've never ever released, and yeah,
Wow.
just a little hint to let you know that they know.
That's a little spooky, but
That
I
is
guess
really spooky.
yeah. Has there been a particular experience that you've had that has made you question why you're doing this, or if it's worth it, or that you felt
Um,
particularly at risk?
I think the only time I've ever felt at risk was one of the guys I was getting ready to witness his execution. We were about 2 or 3 days out. And so I was able to be on death row with him, just he and I, for 8 hours up and down death row alone in that pod. We were allowed to order food out, have it delivered to the prison, stuff like that. And we're walking up and down. And he's like, oh, Christ, Kimberlin, I can't believe they're going to kill me in a couple days. It's been 18 years and, now it's real. I don't know what I'm going to do. He's like, if I kill another person, like right now, they can't execute me, right? They have to try me. So they have to stay the execution and take me to court, right? And of course, I'm looking around thinking, I'm the only dude around. There's not even a guard around.
Right.
Um,
Oh
so of
gosh.
course I make something up real quick, and I said, "No, dude, they're gonna execute you anyways. They're gonna try and abstent you. You're gonna be found guilty. It's gonna bring embarrassment to your family. You just got to go out with your head held high, go easy. Just don't even think that way." And he thanked me for talking him off the ledge, and I'm sitting there thinking the whole time, I'm just glad I didn't get pushed off the ledge. So
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh my
that's
gosh.
about the only time really that I was ever where the hair on the back of my neck stood up.
Okay. Wow.
Wow.
That is surreal. Because even just reading
Mm.
Wendy's story with you joking, if I'm not out in a few hours, and you're not
Exactly. That
out in
was,
a
yeah,
few
same time.
hours.
Yeah. She was not amused at that, by the
No,
way.
I can't imagine.
Well, it's not like you can walk up to the gates of San Quentin's,
And be able to
condemned
get
row
in.
and
Yeah.
yeah, knock on the door and say, "Hey, my husband's in there. Is he allowed to come out, or what happened to him?" So yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Got it. It takes a lot of patience. It's a good thing she works in the education field.
Yes, and shakes her head a lot at me.
You know what? Sometimes that helps you get through it, right? Um, I
Absolutely.
I know Sierra had a couple of questions about some people that you've specifically worked with. Now, I
Sure.
know that there are some things that you might not be able to answer just due to confidentiality reasons, but feel free to steer those however you would like.
Right. So first, before even that, I wanted to ask you, you already mentioned that you were not a true crime enthusiast. That was one of my questions before all of this.
Right.
But what about now? Do you consider yourself a true crime enthusiast now? And is it because of the job, or is it because of, just immersing yourself in that and finding that there is a community for it?
So that's a great question. I find it interesting, the true crime community itself, but as far as the shows and things of that nature, I'm not a big fan of, because a lot of those uh, inmates or condemned individuals on those shows are people that I've interviewed, firsthand, either face to face or however, and I know the backstory, and it's what you see on TV is not really factual, especially when it comes to people interviewing other ones on death row. You'll see them behind the glass and the telephones, because that gives you the sense of security that it's always safe there. But that's only for media purposes. When I go there, there is no glass, there is no
Mm-hmm.
phones or anything like that. It also amuses me every time when you see a killer on death row, male or female, and the prosecutor, lead detective will always say, it's the worst case I've ever seen in my entire career. And, I sit there and I shake my head thinking, well, have you not had much of a career? Because I look at all the guys that I've dealt with over the years. But I also never speak to the media or anything like that. So I'm a little biased because,
Yeah.
it's, I just stay clear of the media that way. So my guys don't feel threatened or exposed or anything like that.
Wow. That is so interesting.
And again, that's incredible
and then-
integrity on top of it, because
Yes,
you're working in
that's
a field that
insane.
there's thousands of true crime fanatics and would, do anything to get that information from you, or a piece of artwork or anything like that.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
know. I get messages all the time asking me all the time if I would part with this or sell this or whatever.
Wow.
And, it's just one of those things. You have to have a lot of patience,
yeah.
thick skin, and a strong stomach, because
Yeah.
at the same time that most people in the true crime field world or whatever, they like the shows, you still have to sit across from this individual
Mm-hmm.
who has raped and murdered, 5, 10, 15, 20, up to 86 people, like Samuel Little, that I dealt with, and keep a straight face and not judge them.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I'll go on death row many times with the same individual and never bring up their case whatsoever. I'll talk about the weather, politics, anything, to the point where they finally say, "Don't you want to know what I did?" So I have found over the years that the least amount of questions I ask, the more they tell me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That whole conversation right there actually led into my next question, which is, what do you think of the people who, write you and ask for you to sell them the paintings, and, the crazy true crime enthusiasts? Like, what is your feelings towards them? Do you think if they were in your shoes, they wouldn't be that way? You know what I mean? Like, are they?
No, I don't think anything bad of them at all. I think that especially the ones overseas in Europe and places like that, or other countries that don't have the death penalty, curiosity.
Right.
So I don't blame them one bit for reaching out to me. Unfortunately, I just don't sell this stuff.
Right.
But people want to learn. They want to learn more about. It's no different than if I want to pay for an autograph or a picture from a rock group or a sports figure or something like that. Again, not role models in any sense, but it's still a collection of something that you value yourself. So when these individuals, males and females from across the globe, want, a Scott Peterson, painting, or a Charles Ng or Manson and stuff like that, I don't blame them at all. It's just they don't really know the backstories to it.
Mm-hmm.
And with on top of the 1,500 pieces of art or more now, probably I have thousands of letters, tons of them not even opened yet, so that tells the backstories to all of it as well. So they would almost need all of it in order to get the whole glimpse of it, instead of just wanting to hang a Gacy or a Ramirez or something like that on their wall, or Dahmer.
Right.
It's definitely a different scope.
So
I mean, from our side, we have that morbid curiosity, but a lot of what drives us is, we respect to the victims always. And, the psychological side of why these people do this. I mean, I did my degree in psychology, and I've always been fascinated by true crime, even at, 12, when my mom's like, "Are you okay?" So, I mean,
and that's perfectly fine. So when I look at stuff, so like when I get, like this one here came from Ohio, and he paid $14.95 for postage on
wow.
this. Now that's the stuff I look at, because in prison nothing is cheap and nothing is free. So for them to spend $14.95 to have this certified, to make sure that I receive it, that gets my mind wandering. And then
wow.
with, like the
Thanks for
Charles
being
Ing,
so
you know,
patient to open some of these with us.
well, I'll be honest with you, I had to go out my truck and get them because they've been sitting in there. So like this one from Ing, who spent, it looks like maybe $8 in stamps because each one's like, that's a 5, a 2, a 1 to 1. And for something that could have been mailed for probably $1, and he used all that postage on there. So that is, so I try to figure that in my mind, like, why? Why would he do that? You know, because that's their currency is in prison a lot of times is stamps. So, and then, you know, the way they come up with their boxing, like this one was almost $10. This one's a Scott Peterson one. It hasn't been opened yet. And it's like weird looking, you know, so I don't know what's in it. I'm certain it's a painting, but again, it's, you know, the way I look at it is he's in the middle of this, cause this just came this week, and, you know, he's in the middle of the fight for his life for a new trial and everything else. And there's a $10 postage, you know, that he spent to send me whatever. So that's the
Wow.
stuff I look at instead of the art.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
No, it
Yeah,
absolutely
that's-
does. It puts a value of importance to them, like it getting to you. Like, what is it?
Yes.
So these individuals kill a lot of people, yet when they curse in front of me, they'll apologize. Or if, you know, they're constantly writing, asking me about how my health is, how's this, how going. So they're concerned about me, but they weren't concerned about the 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 people that they killed or raped or, you know, whatever.
Wow. That's very interesting.
Oh.
So the psychology part of me, that's what I look at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And obviously you
wow.
must have
Goodness.
made
So,
an
Do you-
impact on them that they hold you at that regard and that they consider you a friend, whether or not that's reciprocated. You've built a trust with them, and
yeah, because I
you actually
probably
listen
joke
to
with them
them.
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I listen, I joke, I talk to them just like I'm talking to you guys.
Mhm.
You know, and some of them are very narcissistic. You know, uh, they want to be known as, you know, the best serial killer ever, and the most notorious. And sometimes I just, you know, out of the blue, I'm like, you know, you kind of suck at what you did. And they're like, what do you mean? You know, I killed, you know, 25, 30 people. And I'm like, yeah, but if you're really that good, we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation.
You got
Wow.
caught, buddy.
Yeah. So then they laugh at that, or they'll paint me something and then they'll write me a letter. How'd you like the, you know, the painting? And I'll go see them, or I'll write back. I'm like, you know, I hope you killed better than you paint because your painting sucks. But, you know,
Oh my goodness.
and they really,
That's
believe it or not,
great.
they really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's a dark
So,
sense of humor. We can appreciate that.
Yeah.
For sure.
So,
Wow.
because if you go at them like, you know, why did you do it, or what did you do and why, they shut down real quick.
Mhm.
So
Wow.
Wow.
and
Is
those are
there
all tricks of the
any
trade that I learned over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just curious because you said that they do disclose, you know, the less questions you ask, the more they disclose. Are you required to disclose certain things to law enforcement if they share that with you, or is that protected, you know,
No,
confidentiality
no.
wise?
Yeah, I'm not required to at all. Have I? Yes, I've worked with the FBI on a couple of different ones. So I have maps right now to 3 different bodies, working on some other ones as well that have yet to be located for unsolved crimes. So we're working on that to bring some closure to some families, hopefully.
That's incredible.
So yeah, I mean, I would never hold that information, you know, hostage or try to capitalize on it or anything like that. Yeah, the main thing would always be to get closure to the families if they
Yeah.
could. But that takes a long time to get that trust built up with the condemned inmate and myself. So
Yeah. Well, I imagine that you have helped quite a few cases then if they're disclosing a little bit of information here and there, or at least giving the police information that they might not have had before.
right. Right. And, you know, and they've contacted me and asked me if I'd ask certain questions to certain ones because they won't talk to law enforcement, obviously, and they know I have a rapport with them. I don't really speak to victims' families because I don't want to be biased in any way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I deal strictly with the inmate one-on-one on death row, minus any guards, any prosecutors, any judges, or any victims' families. So
Yeah,
Wow.
wow.
And I imagine it's not required for you to disclose that stuff because, I mean, it's kind of already too late, right? They're on death row. What more
right.
can you throw at them?
Right, exactly. And it's really kind of odd how someone will reach out, like Samuel Little. He passed away this past year with COVID,
Mhm.
but his best friends were from Sandusky, Ohio, where I was. So he reached out to want to know if I knew them, and that's how we began. And he had killed all over the country. So I was getting really close to him on some things, and then he passed away as well. So you never know when they're going to reach out to you.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I actually have a question specifically about Samuel Little now that we're on that one. I know that he was, at least at one point, I haven't looked into it much since I last saw it, considered the most prolific serial killer based on his numbers.
Yeah.
I think he admitted to killing 93 and 60 were confirmed.
Yeah.
So
So go ahead.
he was 72 and homeless at the time of his arrest.
Yes.
So like, in at least in your time talking with him, did he seem like he was trying to claim these extra murders for notoriety or just because he could, or like, did he seem genuine about this?
So with Sam, the media portrays him as the most prolific serial killer, which honestly probably is, based on the numbers. They said 93. Now he told me without any uncertainty whatsoever that it was, and I can't remember, it's in a letter form and everything, but it was like 86,
Okay.
not 93. That he had fessed up to all of them that he had done, and it was 86, not the 90 some or the 100 that they were trying to say there was. That tells me he was probably honest,
Mm-hmm.
because let's be honest, if they wanted to embellish it, he would have said, "Oh, that's the minimum that I killed. I
Right.
probably killed 100. But he was dead set on 86 or 85, whatever the number was that he gave me, which is astronomical when it comes to the human life.
Yes.
And the fact that he had done it all of his life, but when you're talking, the lack of DNA back in those days, in the closed circuit TVs and the cameras everywhere, and things like that. And he had beaten a couple murder raps in trial before, so he had spent some time in jail and prison throughout his life, and was still just so hooked on taking women's lives. But yeah, I think he probably would be the most prolific serial killer.
Yeah. That's insane. It's
Yeah.
crazy to think that he's really serious about it too. Oh goodness.
And
Um,
he loved to kill.
yeah.
He fantasized about it every night, all the way up until his death. He told me that. He said, he tried to be a more religious and God fearing man, and felt that he was forgiven, but his thoughts at night, when he would fantasize about that sexually, obviously
Right.
would lead him to certain things. But all the way up until his death, he was still sexually fantasizing about those murders.
And is that, I'm not super well versed in law. Is that not something that is considered, you know, unstable, mentally unstable, something that would put him in a ward instead of a prison because literally he can't control it, right?
Well, he knows right from wrong, so the McNaughton rule wouldn't apply, so
Okay.
he would be competent on that. He knew right from wrong. He knew it was wrong to kill, but he just got off on it.
Right.
And that doesn't excuse anybody
Right.
and I have plenty of guys that have murdered and then are necrophiliacs and would go back and have intercourse with the bodies afterwards. So
Hmm.
so it's not uncommon. They would just progress more and more, and it's more of a control issue, especially when it comes to rape. It's more of a power and control aspect. And then I think that they just don't want to get caught or turned in, so they kill them.
Right. Oh goodness.
Wow. All seemingly unrehabilitatable. That's not even a word. Person. Like
They
they're
are not
beyond.
able to be fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever
Broken
worked with
beyond repair.
somebody that you like on death row that you felt like maybe was there, like not like they didn't belong there, like maybe that they could be rehabilitated or
Yeah, I will say this because um, wifey feels this way, and I hate bringing up names because then next thing I know I'm going to be in the media for he's a bleeding heart and everything else. But somebody like Scott Peterson, I enjoy interviewing him and talking to him because he is somebody that I don't think would ever do that again. I think probably in a different state or in a if he would have acted differently after the fact, I don't think that would have been death penalty material.
So I actually had saved this question for last, but we're on it, so I'm on it.
Okay.
I heard you say you don't think he would do that again. There is in the true crime community
the most highly
a
debated.
huge debate on whether or not he's guilty. So do you, if you're allowed to say, in your own opinion, believe that he's guilty, or you just kind of going with the law?
I believe in the judicial system. I will let that play out.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Got
if he gets a new trial, that'll be up to a jury of his peers. So I would rather not say my thoughts on it or what he has told me in confidence. So
right. I get it.
Blink
The
twice.
law is the
Bill.
law.
No. I'm joking. No, we totally
put it this way. I
respect
could have
that.
made a fortune probably going to like TMZ or whatever those shows are up there, and shown them my writings and stuff from him. But
Yeah.
I have remained silent and will do so.
And again,
Wow.
that level of integrity.
Yes.
Like beyond
That
respect.
kills me.
Like, yeah, not only are you a very cool guy, but you're a good guy too. And that's,
Thanks.
they're rare. So we got to give credit where credit is due.
Thanks.
Do you feel that Scott Peterson got a fair trial the first time around?
California is different. I was out there during the OJ trial and because that's where I got my doctorate from, was in California. And, I got my picture taken in front of OJ's place and stuff. California is different. So I think when the media, when they're tried in the court of public opinion, that makes a huge difference. So I'm not a big fan of even though the true crime world out there loves it, I'm not a big fan of court TV, cameras in the courtroom, I should say, things like that, because I do think it skews a lot of people's judgment.
I would definitely
That's
agree
one
with
of the
that.
things we talk about. Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
We just
Just
did
how different
13
that could have
parts
been.
on Michael Peterson. And that was one of our biggest arguments was
The other Peterson on TV.
Right, yeah.
that we didn't
Staircase.
feel he had a fair
Yes.
trial the first time around because it was so,
Right.
media heavy and opinionated. And I think that it's as
Right.
interesting as it is for us to see those types of things, it doesn't allow for a fair trial. I don't think so.
No, it really doesn't. And unfortunately, people don't realize that what they see on the media or even in the courtroom itself live is such a small fragment of what really goes on. So by the time they go to trial, a lot of evidence is either suppressed or, witnesses not called or things of that nature. And that's why it takes, sometimes a year or two to get to trial. So people want to base their opinions on what they've seen on the media. And the realization is there's so much more behind the scenes that goes on that people are not privileged to. That's why I'm not a big fan of the cameras in the courtroom. But as far as like did he get a fair trial and things like that? Yeah, that's all based on the judge's rulings. And I respect juries. I respect the judge's opinions, and they're obviously way more educated in the law than I am. So I would never question any of that. That's what the appeals court's for, and that's what the Supreme Courts are for. If there's a question of the legalities, they challenge them that way. So
Interesting. So another one of the people that you've worked with in the past is Anthony Sowell, the Cleveland
yes.
Strangler.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
specifically with that one, and I guess others with these names, do they know that they have this creepy name attached to them, and do they enjoy it? Do they approve of it? Does he know he's the Cleveland Strangler?
Anthony did. He wanted to be known as the most notorious serial killer in Ohio. So I was one of the first ones to interview him, and I interviewed him over and over. And he wanted me to only write a book about him, nobody else. He wanted my undivided attention. He was like a little seventh grader. When he heard I was visiting other inmates, he'd get upset and things like that. So Anthony and I, we had a little falling out there, but I have his artwork, I have his letters, and I did interview him, umpteen times, but he enjoyed that serial killer title.
Yeah.
And he wanted people to know that he was, a serial killer. So he took a lot of pride in it.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
I feel that there's all types. There's the people that are just deeply sick and they can't control their impulses and they act on it. And then there is the narcissistic side of them where for some that they do want that notoriety and they will embellish their numbers and stuff like that. Like I'm still fairly convinced that Ted Bundy was one of those that embellished his numbers and wanted to be bigger than he was.
I'm certain he had, more victims. That was before my time in getting into this field. He would have been interesting to interview, though. I'll be honest. I would have liked to have interviewed him. I would have. People ask me all the time, is there anybody that I wished I could have interviewed? I would say Charlie Manson, even though he wasn't on death row. I would have found him fascinating to sit in the same room just to pick his brain, because he was so far out there.
Mm-hmm. He had a strange brain.
Plus
he was from Ohio, so we do have.
And somebody with that level of captivism that they can lead a group of people to do all sorts of horrible
charismatic things. In such a way. Yes. So I would have liked to see what he had to say, or heard what he had to say. But unfortunately, I never got a chance to, because he was not on death row, and very few people did I ever talk to not on death row. Samuel Little was one of them, because he wasn't on death row, and Dennis Rader, BTK, he's not on death row, and I've spoken to him.
Wow.
And he's different. He's just
I can imagine.
I recently finished his daughter's book after having it on my bedside table for about a year and a half. That is insane to think that you can totally blindside your family that way, and I'm sure it's not uncommon. Just from what we've seen.
That was unique for him to get away with it for so long, with his fetishes on top of it, and live that double life. And Gacy, I look at him the same way, to be able to carry on that long, undetected for so long. So
it's scary. You said, I was just gonna, Dave, BTK is probably my favorite person to make fun of. Moreover, because of how he got caught and his need to pick up his own nickname and things like that. I just I guess that's how I find coping, and reading about these things so much and hearing about them so much. I'm like, well, it's easier to make fun of you.
I unfortunately I did that once, and he put me in carbon freeze, because we were supposed to have code names to refer to each other. And his was, I think, Cancer Pisces or something like that. And mine was supposed to be Dr. Will instead of Dr. Bill, because that throws everybody off. And somehow I must have referred to him as BTK or whatever. And he loves Batman and he loves Star Wars, and he put me in Carbon Freeze. And I haven't reached out since. So
Wow. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
What a character.
very much
yeah.
so.
Anybody else that you would say would be the most out there person that you've ever worked with or talked to?
Oh man.
Like just beyond like like comprehension, kind of like a Charlie Manson type.
Probably William Sapp out of Ohio's death row. He's,
That
And
was one I was
Sierra,
gonna
your
ask about,
hometown
too.
is
yeah,
I know. I was going to ask you, Bill, do you have a interest or family in Ohio? Is that why you're
I was born and raised there.
okay.
We just recently moved to Florida because I got sick of the
I'm
weather.
also from Ohio, so
Okay, whereabouts?
Cincinnati.
Okay, so a lot of friends in Cincinnati, University of Cincinnati, plus, yeah. So Ohio has, Jeffrey Dahmer, Charlie Manson, who was from Cincinnati, Anthony Sowell, Sean Great, William Sapp. I mean, we have our numbers of serial killers coming out of Ohio.
Oh yeah, I left for a reason.
Yeah. So William Sapp is probably the most terrifying serial killer I think I've ever been involved with. And I've been involved with him for probably 8-9 years because he still has that desire to kill.
Mm.
In fact, I asked him a couple of years ago if he were able to, I'll ask these hypothetical questions to a lot of people on death row. If you got out, what would you do? And 9 times out of 10, it's like I'd go into the mountains and disappear. I don't want to be around society, or something along those lines. And I asked Sapp 2 questions one time. He has not seen his children since he's been on death row. I said, so if I brought your kids on death row, teenagers now, what would you say to them? And he looked at me for, it felt like, a half hour, but it was like 30 seconds. And he just said, I really wouldn't say anything. I'd kill them. That's one of my biggest regrets, is not killing them because of my last name. So I'd kill them.
wow.
So that struck me as very odd. And then a year or so ago, we were interviewing him filming wise. And I asked him, I said, so if you got out, what would you do? Would you, go to the mountains? Would you, just live your life as a hermit, or what? He shook his head. He said, no, I would go back to the same places I went where I killed my victims, and probably, if there's any family members alive, wipe them out. Just finish out the bloodlines.
Wow.
Matter
That
of
is
fact is that.
dark.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he's different
Yeah.
Did
no
death row
kidding.
inmates interact with each other?
all the time.
So is he William Sapp? He was responsible for the death of 2 children, right?
Yes.
Is he one of the people? I mean, you always hear about prison yard justice. Like, is he someone who is protected more? Do they hate other inmates not like him more because of the crimes against children?
So on death row, everybody tends to get along because they've all done the most heinous crimes.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have raped and murdered children and adults and everything else, it doesn't matter. They're not judging you. Like if you put a child molester on general population,
Right.
they're going down quickly. But on death row, not at all. Nobody.
They're just all awful.
Yes. So, and they get to
It's a good
interact all
question,
the time
though.
with one another.
I was
I get that
curious
all the
about that
time.
too.
Yeah, I get that all the time because people ask me my opinion or thoughts on the death penalty, and what I say to them is, if I had a family member that was brutally murdered and it was a capital murder offense, if I didn't take care of it myself, meaning take justice into my own hands first, then I would not recommend the death penalty for that individual, because general population compared to death row is so much worse.
Mm,
Wow, interesting.
I believe it.
I believe it too. I mean, they're there to the end, technically. So
And it is very quiet on death row. It is very organized. It is they have a lot of amenities. Um, they have a lot of freedom. There's a lot of money on death row. So
Yeah, it's so interesting to me that these people have done things that are so bad that they deserve to be on death row, but still society is like, well, since they're about to die, let's treat them nice. That's so strange to me.
right. And then what happens is a lot of times is they will get pen pals, especially from other countries and places like that are very interested in death row inmates. So what they will do is say, I'll write you, but you have to put money on my books or do this or do that. And,
Mm.
you get 10, 15, 20 pen pals like that, and you have
Mm,
plenty of money on your books.
wow, yeah.
Wow.
So
Do you
it's a
have you ever
business.
had that asked of you as well? Like
Yeah,
while
Anthony
you
Sowell wanted me to pay him for his story, like $400 a month or something like that.
Wow.
And I just don't do that. What I will do is I send stamps to a lot of them because I correspond a lot, and they send me tons of art. The ones that do a lot of art for me when they're running low on art supplies, a lot of times I'll just order them art supplies, or if it's getting close to the end and I'm getting ready to witness their execution or whatever, I'll order them a food box or something like that. But yeah, I mean, they rarely ever ask for anything. So it's just one of those things where, it's just implied, I'll send you stamps or I'll do this. And then they send me other stuff. So
it's incredibly kind of you.
Right.
it's I wouldn't say kind. It's manipulating in a way also. You learn from the best, and death row inmates are the world's best manipulators.
Uh-huh.
So by me sending them the stamps or art supplies or whatever like that, they may take it as a gesture of kindness. I take it as this is keeping me in contact in a certain way where they're divulging information to me.
Wow.
Interesting.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I know we're running short on time now, and we're dying to know what's in those
Oh,
3 specific packages that
okay.
you've mentioned so far.
Which
If
one
you want to
me
open those
first?
up.
Dealer's
You said
choice.
there's one from Ohio, but you never said who it was.
Oh,
What's that
was
one?
David Allen from Ohio. So I can open that one. So I never tear the address. So let me go on the opposite end. I always save the envelopes too.
I feel like I want to give you a drum roll.
Yeah, these are slips showing that he sent out stuff before. So these are on. So
Oh,
can you
wow.
see that at all?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's beautiful.
Okay, and then let me see where else.
The skills you can develop when you have nothing but time on your hands, I guess.
I
Right.
know, right? So, and these are all oil on canvas.
Wow.
Wow.
So that's 2.
Canvas and
this
oil is not cheap either. So,
right.
wow.
That's a little demonic there, it looks like.
Spooky. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Oh, and then great. I don't have gloves on, but you can see what that's painted out of, or you can guess.
I don't know. What is it?
It's white.
Ah, okay. I get it. I was
Okay.
like, it's really dark. What's happening?
Yeah, there's a bunch of those.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
Okay.
And most of them are skeletons or bodies.
Ooh.
So it's almost
Okay.
like a Rorschach test. You have
Yeah.
to stare at it for a while. And then he always puts on the back, whether which side's up and what's down. So this side's down. So
Interesting.
that's
Yeah.
Ohio.
Dark.
Who do you want next?
Charles Ing.
Okay, so he's an Asian serial killer with Leonard Lake. Leonard Lake
Mhm.
killed himself when he was arrested. Charles Ng, who was a Marine, born and raised in Hong Kong, fled to Canada and then was arrested. He is very big on origami. So it looks like
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces of origami. So it looks like a buffalo.
Cool.
Oh, wow.
Very
And
cool.
then he's really big on butterflies. And I don't know if you can see the signature or not. He signs every little piece.
Yep.
But they're all different colors and they're butterflies. And that was one of his things when he was killing, is he always seen his victims as butterflies. So they
Wow.
kind of represent his victims.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I probably have 30 or 40 butterflies from him, and then different animals. And he's a very good painter as well. And then last but not least is Scott Peterson. And this is a crazy one, how to figure out how to open. I don't even know how. This says seal this end, cut this end. They're very picky on how they do stuff.
Perfectionists.
So this is oil on canvas.
Wow.
It's probably hard to see, but he's very abstract. So it's a lot of times. So from what I could see up close, it's his face behind the bars. So I have paintings of him writing letters, and I have one of them framed where he's it's the Statue of Liberty with barbed wire wrapped around it, and his face in the background, looking at freedom through barbed wire. So yeah. So that's
I see it now.
Peterson.
I see it now. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's really interesting.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
So
Thank
so
you
yeah,
for sharing that with us.
yeah. So that's now I'm done with the art, and then I get to the letters. It just depends. Like I did open the one because this one here asked me to attend his execution in Ohio, and I was expecting this letter. I just but I'll give you an idea of what, when they write me to ask me that. It says, how, dear Dr. Bill, how are you, my friend? I pray you are doing well. As for myself, I'm doing good. I'd be a lot better if I didn't have this execution date over my head, which is what I want to talk to you about. I would like to ask you if you would be one of the 3 witnesses to my execution. We have been friends now for some years. I know you have been to witness other executions of inmates on death row. Many of us know you and have tried to help us and be there for us. It would mean a lot if you would be there on that day. Feel free to write back anytime. Thanks for being such a great friend, Chuck. So,
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, those are just, those are the more formal letters. The other ones, like I said, I have the only Native American female on death row. The only female federal death row inmate I had that was on death row, period, was executed in July or January of this year, actually. I was supposed to be at that one, but COVID wouldn't allow me. She was the first female executed in 70 years on federal death row and the only one on death row.
Wow, that's crazy.
Lisa Montgomery,
It's the baby killer, stealer one, right?
Yeah.
Baby
Tons of her
stealer.
art and everything like that. So her and I knew each other for quite some time.
Interesting.
So yeah, there you have it.
Wow. And now how many executions have you been witness to, Bill?
So I've witnessed, I've been a part of 5, 3 from start to finish, 2 had stays, and I think I have 6 or 7 more to go, including 1 electric chair.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Is the electric chair, is that one that they elected to have?
Yes. Yeah, that's here in Florida.
I think that's interesting. That I mean, I think it's kind of twisted that they're able to choose their form
It's
of
usually
capital
like they're
punishment.
grandfathered in,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, so depending on when they were sentenced to death, what the method was at the time, and then quite honestly, a lot of them will want to choose methods that way to get them more notoriety.
Right. It sounds very dramatic.
Yes, yes.
Oh,
So
goodness.
that's why.
Okay, interesting. Because I was thinking for whatever reason that they were moving away from the electric chair. Maybe I'm
Oh, yeah.
misunderstanding.
Typically
Okay.
they were, but now we're moving away from lethal injection. So like Ohio and a couple other states are looking to re-implement the firing squad, because that's still used in a few states. And
Oh,
so now like South Carolina just put that back into play, I think 2 months ago. Ohio's looking to go back that way.
Why firing
Utah still
squad
uses it.
over lethal
Because
injection?
it's effective and probably the least painful. So you have 5 marksmen shooting at your heart with 30-30s, and 4 of the 5 have live rounds. 1 has a blank, nobody knows whose it is. So when you have 4 30-30s shooting your heart at 25 yards, it explodes, you're dead.
wow.
Yeah. Which is probably the way I'd go if I had to choose.
I feel like,
I was gonna ask out of curiosity.
yeah. I
Yeah.
feel like you'd feel the pain though before you went. I feel
You
like
ever been
lethal
shot,
injection would be
Sierra?
the least.
Yeah, but
I haven't,
some of the
but
lethal injections I've attended, man, they've gasped, convulsed,
oh,
everything
really?
for a long time. Yes. Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah,
And remember,
that seems
even
inhumane now.
though, well, remember, even though the Constitution says it can't be cruel and unusual, it doesn't say it can't be painful. So
yeah.
there is that. Plus,
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you put it as cruel and unusual, a gunshot to the heart is the least cruel and unusual.
plus you have to ask yourselves why we would elect certain methods. Is it for the benefit of the person being put to death, or is it to benefit the society that's witnessing it? So why would we want to sentence somebody to the ultimate form of punishment if we can't handle watching it in its true form?
That's true.
If we're that squeamish about witnessing it, then perhaps we probably shouldn't be administering it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I think I'd be squeamish about witnessing someone bleeding out from being shot too. Like,
Yeah,
maybe we just shouldn't do it. Find something
it's
else.
never really.
I don't know.
It isn't an easy thing.
Yeah.
That's always tough,
Oh,
especially when they
goodness.
wave to you on the table, or something like that, and you're just
Oh,
sitting there.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. Oh
I know
my
it's a lot
gosh.
to digest.
it is.
We could honestly ask you questions all night. You
You
are
could just
by
have me back
far
on again.
I was just gonna say we would absolutely love to. Now when you mentioned that there's gonna be new updates and Watch Me Die, when is that release coming out? Because I want the
So
updated one.
the release is coming on September 21st. And there you can, pre-order at wildbluepress.com, or you can go on Amazon or whatever on the launch date. Yeah, let me know what you think. Write a review, do whatever.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Your second book. Now I saw you signing on social media. Is that's currently in the works, you said? Do you have like
That's
an
currently in the
estimated
works.
release date, or when you're hoping to
You
have it
know,
done?
That's a little difficult to predict because I still have to fly out to San Quentin to sit down with Charles Ng. He's never been interviewed privately before. He's requested me.
Wow.
And I've talked to him a number of times over the years, but I want to sit down with him to get to the meat of things. And with COVID hitting, it's just so hard to get in certain death rows. And California is one of them. So as soon as they open that back up, I'll fly out there. I'll interview him. then I'll put the book together and finalize it then. So I'm hoping within, by next year.
Okay.
So
Wow.
yeah.
Well, I can't wait for that one too.
Awesome.
Is there any last plugs, anything that you want our listeners to know, where they can find you? Any information like that?
I would like to plug Twisted and Uncorked podcast because you guys are awesome. Seriously,
you.
you guys are the
Thank
best.
you. We feel the same about
So,
you.
I love your guys' posts on Instagram. If people want to follow me on there or Facebook, that's fine. But I just love your guys' posts. I love your attitudes. I love everything that you guys do on the show. So it's an honor to be on here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Making me blush. That means a lot coming from you.
Coming back on the next time.
Yes, and I promise it will not take this long. Sierra and I are a lot more organized.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me on.
Thanks for coming on.
So, Bill, do you want to say keep it twisted with us as we sign out here?
Absolutely. You got to keep it twisted with you too.
Thank you so much for coming on, Bill. You guys, please pre-order his new release for September 21st. I'm so excited. I'm going to do it right after this, and stay tuned for more from Bill, and we'll have him on again very soon. And in the meantime, keep it twisted.
Twisted.
Thank you so much, Bill.